Hello, and welcome to our next presentation. On behalf of the MIT CDOIQ Virtual Symposium, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors who have continued to support the symposium during this very challenging year. Before we thank our partners, we'd like to ask that sometime during the symposium's breaks that you visit our partners' virtual booths. You can also visit the Content Hub on the MIT CDOIQ website for some great partner resources. We'd like to thank the following partners: Deloitte, Informatica, Privacy and Analytics, DAWEX, Fusion Alliance, KPMG, Sandal Consultants, Tamer, Elation, Ali Data, Big ID, Boomi, Caserta, Citizen, Data Kitchen, Garage, Wakira, Pylog, Click, ThoughtSpot, Eckerson, Global IDs, Snowflake, Starburst. And as I said, please make every effort to visit our partners, use the virtual passport, because without them and our partner support, the symposium could not be held. Thank you.
Everyone, and welcome to session 4B, Journey to Building a Mature Data Culture at the London Stock Exchange Group. The London Stock Exchange Group has uniquely ability to demonstrate its data management journey and why, as a financial infrastructure leader, it is important to change behaviors that ultimately progress maturity and achieve better business objectives, including client, transaction markets, market events, reputation, and commercial impact. With this, we have Diane Schmidt and Tom Dunlap, two of the data leaders that will be talking about this session. Diane, Tom, over to you.
Okay, great, terrific. Hi, everyone. Tom Dunlap here, and I'm the Group Chief Data Officer at the London Stock Exchange Group. And on behalf of Diane and myself, we're thrilled to be speaking at the MIT CDOIQ Symposium and on the topic of our journey at LSEG with building a mature data culture. So before we get into the deck, some process points. First, we'll speak for about 30 minutes. There'll be 2 polling questions, so don't worry, they'll be easy. And then we'll allow the remainder of the time for some questions, which we're looking forward to speaking to you on. And also, what we'll be speaking to today is on how our data governance program has evolved over the past few years, going from a divisional effort within our information services group to a virtual effort across our group, with very keen support and involvement from activists, stakeholders, and sponsors, to now a full-time business function at the group level within our Chief Data Office, fully operational with dedicated people. We'll also share how we've evolved on this journey and where we've made it real, doing so through a formal data policy with standards, guiding principles, awareness and training programs, and measured conformity, a supporting data governance toolkit with a business glossary and data catalog, and then assessing our levels of data management maturity by group, by division. And our business is made up of capital markets, information services, as I mentioned before, our post-trade and federated functions, and then the collaboration model that's supported by steering committees as well as forums. So all this is important to London Stock Exchange Group in view of that we're evolving from more than just a buy side and sell side offering. We emphasize more of our capabilities with data as a commercial asset and sets of products that we sell, especially ringing true with our planned acquisition of Refinitiv. And we need to ensure that we have an enterprise-wide data management model that is scalable, flexible, sustainable, and with strong governance. So with all that being said, let's get into the deck. So if we can go back to slide 3, please. We'll discuss today what our Chief Data Office is in terms of program drivers and overall assumptions, how our journey has evolved, what we did and why we did things the way we did. We'll do a spotlight review on our data policy framework and tooling, and then share lessons learned. So going to slide 4. So what's really driving our data needs? Within the London Stock Exchange Group, we're working to bring together our data capabilities across years of both inorganic and organic growth. And I think it's important to remember that we're not just an exchange. We have diversified businesses that include, within information services, our FTSE Russell indices, yield book analytics and fixed income indices, merchant data platforms. We issue symbology, specifically CDOIQ numbers. Our capital markets includes, for sure, the London Stock Exchange, the Italian Borsiana, Monte Titoli, MTS and Elite, and then post-trade for our London Clearinghouse, Univista reporting product, and legal entity identifier, local operating utility. Technology for Millennium IT, and there are others that I've not mentioned that are also part of the group capabilities. Really, our management objectives are to bring forth data management as commercial asset, to be complete, timely and accurate, and to be controlled and regulatory bound. And then our clients in the marketplace look to us for innovation, and they expect overall operational excellence. Slide 5, please. Great. Now that we've shared expectations, what assumptions did we make? We recognized the need for strong data governance early on, and they really meant a change in approach and behaviors that our board and our executive committee supported. And they did fully support these, by the way. It's incredibly important to have that top-down support and engagement. And that buy-in then not just occurred from the top down, yet also up and across the organization too. And what we did is we took incremental yet impactful foundational steps. We would not win the war, they say day one, rather we would win the right battles up front, as the saying goes, right, and to evolve again on our journey. So moving on to slide 6 about that journey. In 2017, our Information Services Division head and our Chief Information Officer saw the need to create a specific data operations group with a focus on data governance. In mid-2018, Diane joined full-time as the head of data governance, and then I joined in the fall as the division's CDO. Yeah, we had virtual remits across the group to attempt to make progress beyond our own division. There was lots of bifurcation, limited clarity on roles and responsibilities, really no formal data governance framework. Data quality issues were coming heavy at us. Hey, all easy stuff to get right and make it right, right? So what then occurred in 2018 and now through to 2020 is that the CDO role has evolved to being a full-time role at the group level. There's committed support from our CEO and the Chief Operating Officer, along still with our executive committee and the board of directors. We know our level of data management maturity. We've gone live with our data policy. We have a set of standards and guiding principles. We have a toolkit to support these and have onboarded an integration delivery partner. And we even made this available on our intranet for all to see. And we've created dashboards in the cloud to measure key performance indicators. As we look into the remainder of 2020 and into 2021, we're working to further adopt our data governance tooling across the group, expanding our CDO remit to include a formal data analytics and records management function, amongst others, ensuring successful integration of Refinitiv, progressing our strategic enterprise data management program, and reporting on the return on investment that we're doing in this space, continuing to measure impactful KPIs versus our target operating model. And in short, we've done a lot, and we've got so much more to do. Really exciting times for us indeed. So let's take a quick pause and do a quick audience poll. So Rob, if we can just ask the group, how many of you are in the interim state of a Chief Data Officer organization? So you can just answer.
So I've launched the poll, Tom, if you can hear me okay.
Yep.
So you have that poll in Slido. So for attendees, please go to your Slido underneath the poll and just select on the options. You should be able to select there on the options and go ahead and send in your marks. And
That'd be
I
great.
will tell you the results. results are appearing live time. So we have about, let's see, well, they're changing dynamically, Tom. So, okay, so 33% say yes, 42% say no, 27% say not sure. Although that is changing. Let me just give it another minute, another couple of seconds
Sure.
here. So,
well, I'd just
yeah,
say, even those initial marks, not too surprising that it could be a third and a third and a third, roughly.
well, it seems to be pretty much half yes, half no. Well, 40% yes, 40% no, and 20% not sure, just on the final mark. So I'm just going to deactivate that poll, so that way
Great.
we can have your next one going up there. But does
Great.
that help you, Tom?
It does. I think it's an interesting perspective that many institutions, many companies are on this build out of a chief data office organization. 40% is a fairly high mark. Presumably or hopefully, the people that responded no are in a full state of a seed organization, meaning it's maturing. And those that may not know, well, I'm glad that you're exposed to learn a lot more about what CDO capabilities are and how meaningful they can be, because it really is transformational. It is a behavioral change, a cultural change that you undertake. So moving now to slide 8, what is data governance at the London Stock Exchange Group? So we've agreed internally and externally with practitioners that in our clients in the marketplace that is a set of practices and processes for managing data availability, usability, integrity, security, and then aligned to our data policy. It really enables our data assets to be managed in such a way that they're trusted and utilized, knowing that there's accountability for quality. And what you see here on this slide is effectively our life cycle of the enterprise data governance framework. So if the data policy itself, an example of standards and guiding principles would be metadata. Roles and responsibilities, particularly around producers, consumers, and what data stewards do. That's example in our post-data corporate actions analyst. They're stewarding the data, putting the guardrails around how it's supported and maintained. Taxonomies and hierarchies get defined. Example of this would be industry classifications. Data quality, particularly around authoritative data sources, and particularly around certification of that. So we have a capital markets data factory as an example of that. The data lifecycle itself, particularly around data modeling, change management, or sustainable investments in the environmental, social governance space. In our FTSE Russell business is a great example of that. And then the tooling in terms of common business terms, data lineage, being able to take the business terms and then relate them to systems, data set names, physical assets, really being able to track who, what, where, why, when data would change, both at the metadata and at the value content level. And we want to measure these things as well. So strong KPIs, volume work drivers like pricing variance is an example of that. And then communications and awareness. And we'll hear from Diane in a moment around data policy. So if we now move on to slide 9, this schematic is really showing how our enterprise data management vision is coming together. 6 core input factors around data governance, data analytics, operational risk, data integration, data management, operational excellence. Again, there's some examples of these. Really coming together through innovation and along with a federated approach. And then, of course, there's a series of buy-in around budget approvals, making sure the various business lines are getting value out of the enterprise data-wide model there. And keys about managing our expectations as well as politics in a positive way, if you will, while ensuring that we get substance along with impactful and crisp communication. So really needing to make sure that people understand, particularly leadership in the organization, understand the value and why it's important for do these things. And that has been a transformational journey for us and a cultural journey for us too. Important too, especially in terms of what we've done within organic growth, right? Is people see the value add and why these things become important. So I'll leave you with these thoughts. So now I'll turn over to Diane to speak to our spotlight on data policy tooling and our overall lessons learned. So Diane, over to you, please.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about the just getting organized here with the PowerPoint. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, coming through loud and clear, Diane.
Perfect. And is my video working as well? I'll start that. Perfect. And one thing that's incredibly important to us, as Tom mentioned, is our enterprise data management program. And that is something that is a formal program now, and we're pretty excited about it. One of the fundamental items and components of certainly of any program is a data policy. And something that Tom and I both discovered when we first joined and was a bit eye-opening is that we didn't have a group data policy at the corporate level. It's something we wanted to fix. So we went about certainly creating a policy and a set of standards that were essentially items that helped us to manage our program, set up something that we wanted to provide guidelines and principles to really set the tone for the company as a whole. Whilst it's non-prescriptive, we thought it was important to ensure that our standards provided those prescription and details. And certainly our procedures were the day-to-day or week-to-week checklist items that were part of the activities within the business areas and certainly our own data governance procedures that we had ourselves. Why is the data policy important? Why did we feel like we needed it? It's part of it is, it's definitely instrumental for us in terms of maturing our program, and certainly ensuring that it's our chance to define not only our commitment, but also our requirements. We are with a company as old and as prestigious as LSEG, it's expected that we have these policy components, that we demonstrate to not only our internal stakeholders, but certainly our external stakeholders and most of our customers. And certainly building that trust and having the transparency allows us to proceed with our maturity journey, and something that we obviously found critical to implement in the company.
Hey, Dan, just checking. Are you still showing your screen or sharing your screen?
I think we've lost
Rod,
her.
just check.
We might have lost Diane.
Yeah, I think we've lost her.
Not a problem. Okay, so not a problem. You sent me your PowerPoints, Tom, so let me just kind of pull this up.
Okay.
And hopefully Diane can jump on the call. So let me go ahead and share my screen.
Okay, we can certainly do that. In the interim, while we're waiting for Diane, shall I take a couple of the questions that were out there?
Yes, that'd be a good idea.
Okay.
I think I put the questions in the chat box, so go ahead and just see the first question number 1.
Sure. Okay, so the first question is, what data management maturity model did we use for assessment? We use the DCAM model from the Enterprise Data Management Council that they actually work with different providers that they can license to administer it. And it's, I think, has been applied well over 100 different times, mainly across financial companies. And so that was the model that we use. in terms of where we scored on that, we were roughly right around the industry average, which I think surprised us a bit. We actually thought we would be a little bit lower based in scoring, just based upon how long we've been progressing the program. So it's definitely been a journey for us. We last conducted it in December of 2019, and we plan to conduct it again in the first quarter of 2021. So ideally, being a data person, we want to see continuous process improvement. So we're looking forward to that. Second question was, how many applications are you including in this effort? So really, all of our applications are to be in scope. It's a group-wide effort. However, in terms of our tooling, in terms of our business glossary and data cataloging, really going to start in 5 key areas within our information services division, using index input data. Our capital markets division has a pilot program that they've progressed through our custody and clearing business, Monte Italy. There's also a market data function that we have. We're also looking at symbology, particularly with LEIs and reporting through our platform UnaVista. And then there's some group level finance, HR, other type of data that is company-wide critical elements that we're looking at as well. So those will be the initial core use cases. We don't want to try and do everything at once just because of the risk of potentially doing too much, and we want to be successful with our initial implementations.
Excellent. We'll just do a quick check to see if Diane made it back on the call. Diane, can you hear us okay? Don't know that we hear Diane. So just before I check questions, Tom, just on this presentation, do you want to talk to this one, or do you want me to go ahead and launch the poll?
I can cover it. Let's just check with Diane one more time. Looks like Dan might have dialed in.
Hey, Dan.
Dan, you might be on mute, maybe. Well, I tell you what I can do. I can cover the slides. I'm obviously familiar with them as well until Diane can rejoin. So I'm happy to cover these if you want to advance slides, and then hopefully Diane can.
Sure. So are you seeing the spotlight on data policy? This here one?
Yes, I do. I see it. And in fact, just for sake of consistency, I'm going to bring it up on my other screen as well. So yes, so the reason why we really needed a policy was to create the same level of focus around the standards, the guiding principles on how to support data in terms of the way that we govern it, to ensure that there's accountability around it, and the way that we manage it. There were really 10 or so core types of standards. I mentioned metadata earlier. There's points around like having unique identifiers, not having duplicates. So make sure you have a deduplication process or program if there are duplicates. Also, I think around being able to make sure that there's a clear understanding on common business terminology on how do we effectively make sure that the core capabilities of the way that we use data and how we use data are present. So it's one thing to have a common business term, but make sure that definition maps to the various systems and their data dictionaries that feed into it. Really helps to have that clarity. And then the way that we make sure that it's timely, accurate, and so on. So the efficiency points in terms of how it's utilized, particularly if you think about like regulatory requirements, having core value add for, again, as a product enabler, as an outlet for confirming audit trail, hierarchy information, so on, being consistent, making sure that that the people that need to see the data are appropriately entitled, and then as I mentioned before, it helps with commercialization. So perhaps we can go.
So, and we will just do a quick check. Diane, can you hear us now? And I do apologize in advance. This is obviously one of the issues we'll run into as we do remote. Diane, can you hear us okay? Still not. So we apologize for that. So Tom, what I'll do is, if you're okay, I'll run this poll. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So what we're going to do is, forgive me, this is just the back end of the system, but we now actually have a poll. So you can actually see this poll as on the screen as well. I'm sharing both, so you're seeing the musician behind the curtain. So do you currently have a current data policy? So if you can please go ahead and respond to the poll. And again, we're seeing this live if you're seeing this on my screen as well. So we'll give it a 10 or 15 seconds, see these polls. Tom, can you see this on my screen?
I can.
So that way
Yep.
Okay, so you can see these going live. And obviously, depend upon how many people are updating it. You can see, again, it's interesting there. It kind of swaps out. I don't know whether people are saying it, but pretty much it's ending up at the same point, 40-40-20. So I'm going to stop that poll. So 40% have yes, 40% have no, and 20% not sure. So let me just stop that poll.
All right, great. And it looks
Hi,
like Diane's back. So Diane, I covered the slide on why LSEG needed the policy, and we just conducted the poll.
Perfect. Unfortunately,
so Diane, if you want me to just go ahead and just tell me to click through the next slide, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, page 13 would be great. Zoom didn't like my setup, and it crashed my system. So apologies to the audience out there. And thank you, Tom, for diving in. I was frantically trying to call back, but here we are. Part of what we really expect to continue to mature and increase our data governance maturity levels throughout 2021 and 2022. What's important also to this is our commitment to the journey through the adoption of our data policy and its components. We are certainly leveraging not only our talented staff and processes, and certainly guidance and advice from our stakeholders, but a very large part of this is about our enablers and specifically tooling. And I'm going to talk a little bit about tooling on the next page. We have an amazing opportunity to work and improve and accelerate our data governance program through the use of a best-in-class data governance tool. And we have been working on this for quite some time. And like every company, there are certainly challenges with data, with our needs, with unclear whether it be ownership and certainly duplication and a number of other issues. But we're solving that certainly through our policy and standards in our program, but also through a best-in-class tool set. And we really want to focus on certainly some of the things we've mentioned here. Control also is incredibly important for us. Inventorying of who we are, what we have around our certainly our dictionaries and our catalogs, and so many other things. Policy management and certainly data quality to top the list. And for us, and this opportunity around and this upcoming certainly acquisition that we have, we really do need to accelerate our program. And again, tooling is what we're focused on. Next slide, please. This slide is really just a schematic on some of the tooling milestones that we're essentially working on. We do realize that with a program, the complexities that we have certainly internally, the types of businesses that we have, the type of data that we have, the amount of data that we have is really a multi-year journey. And certainly tooling is while it's an enabler and an accelerator and all the things that we're certainly hoping for, and really with the best in class and the tooling that we've selected, we have a lot of confidence that we will definitely be able to achieve some of the benefits that we've been sort of talking through before. Next slide, please. I think a lot of you've probably seen models like this before, and have seen the house where we have people, processes, technologies, and all of those things come together through really active participation from a number of forums and stakeholders. We have, over the last 18 months, set up a robust set of really groups and forums to help us with managing our program. We want perspectives, we want requirements, we want that commitment also from other organizations. We need guidance with and certainly adoption of budgets, of priorities. We work with and partner with certainly other groups, whether it be the architecture group or other working groups, whether it be for master data and certainly our program function, and that's very, very important to us. So we've had a lot of success using this type of model. We actively use our data governance board as an approval board, as a mechanism for input, certainly around our standards, our policies. We look to expertise in that group and really activation of our stewardship program to really continue to improve our data, our products and services. Next slide, please. Now this is interesting. Some of these things that we, what have we learned throughout this journey, and something that you'll hear over and over again. But our senior management team has been incredibly, they've been incredibly active and vocal, and have been working with us to support our program. That includes our COO and our CEO. They know us by name. That's the good news. That's bad news, but that's the good news. So we work with them very closely, and certainly Tom does as our CDO. We talk about that collaboration model, but it's not just that model. It's relationships amongst the company that are really important, whether it be audit or certainly in compliance. Our legal team, our architecture teams, our businesses, to say the least, are incredibly important to build those relationships and certainly maintain them. Communications and the planning and execution and the coordination are incredibly important. Something that over the years you always added into the plan, but always seem to underestimate how important it is and how key it is to ensure you've got a robust communication plan with the audience definition, and certainly the right level of content for every audience. Adoption, we can't do everything at once. This was something that we will need to do incrementally, but also to continue to report the benefits.
Diane, are you still there?
Yeah.
I think we might have lost Diane, but I think she was just in terms of talking about what we've learned. I just think that really emphasizing the point around validation of our accomplishments, yes, but also a validation of the path forward in terms of the next steps on the journey really become important, showing the incremental value add, being able to demonstrate again why things are important, particularly with our senior leaders, helps to continue to make sure that there is ongoing buy-in. Consistently having the dialogue through our steercos, our forums that we mentioned before have been critically important, and really being able to showcase and highlight where the data governance process is adding value to our capabilities and to showcase those.
Sorry,
so
guys.
they've been really, really good. Yeah, no problem, Diane.
Again.
I was just adding just a couple more anecdotal points on the lessons learned. I'll turn back to you.
Definitely. No, I appreciate that. Sorry, it's something with the Zoom connection is not working. But I think Tom hit upon some important points, incredibly important points. We want to celebrate our successes. That is something we always seem to forget. And something really, really, really important is we've had a really successful last 2 years, and really want to be able to, everybody's like, we work very, very hard. And I think we have to stop and just say, wow, what have we achieved? What have we done? And really, give ourselves some credit here, because there's been some tremendous successes, and not only that, but impacts to the company in terms of better data, better processes, better products and services. So that is something to definitely celebrate.
Yeah, one thing I would just add to what Diane just said there is, you think about this, I mentioned a bit about the history where we've been out from, let's call it late 2017 to where we're at now. Fundamentally and foundationally, to be able to get our board and our CEO and executive committee on board with this was incredibly needed and a powerful statement in itself. To then be able to get the company and people across our divisions, roughly 5,000 employees, to get roughly 65 to 70% of them to acknowledge this is the data policy. This is what it means. These are gaps that we see in my current business that we have within it. All those become, I think, quite impactful and relevant. And, just to add in, the tooling that we use to track conformity was very robust at a very executing level, because what our leadership also wanted to understand is what are the gaps and what do we need to do to close them. And that's where we're at right now, is we're in this transformational journey where we're shifting from developing the strategies and have now the capabilities in place where we're now executing on those capabilities to deliver upon the achievements that we know we have to make, and it will be just an ongoing journey to do so. But it's an important milestone that we've covered now, and now we're fixing more and more on the execution. So it's good stuff. Okay, so Robert, looks like we're getting some questions here.
Yeah, we do. We have some questions.
Yeah, so I've been kind of putting the kind of questions in there. So let me just kind of go share my screen. Just go into the last screen. So we'll put this last one up on full screen mode. I apologize for some people that couldn't have seen the presentation when we did it just in multi mode. So no point in doing that here, but we wanted to just take a pause here. So there have been several questions that have come up into the chat box on the Slido side. So what we're going to do is we're just going to ask if the team can actually go through those questions one by one. And I think that you already asked 2 questions, Tom. So if you want to look at question number 3, do you have it there, or do you need?
Yeah, we see them here. Diane, do you want to take that one since I did the
Sure.
first 2?
Yeah, no,
okay,
absolutely.
Great.
Are we on question 3?
Question 3, yes.
Question 3. The question is, did you use COBIT, COSO, or some ISO standard as a starting point for your data model of governance, policy, process, and procedures? Yes and no. What we have is, I think, on our between Tom, myself, and our data governance director, we've got 75 years minimum of experience. So what we were able to do certainly is use a lot of our experience, a lot of our expertise, and certainly, you know, just what had in our past had worked well, what didn't work so well, and tried to just leverage all of those lessons learned into this program. There definitely are some, I would say, some ISO standards in some of these things. For example, we leveraged a data quality ISO standard for our data quality standard. We, you know, looked into, you know, other ISO standards, whether it be country codes, currencies, and other things for the basis of some of our, certainly our reference data. But yeah, so you can definitely, there's a sprinkling of various things across our program. But I would say that for us, we really started from requirements and what does this, and really the business objectives, what are we trying to achieve here, and really molded that program around trying to really align with our group business and our other businesses.
So Diane, Tom, you are getting lots of questions coming in here. So obviously a great presentation. I think, is it question number 4? Tom, you're on now?
Yeah, I think we'll do, we'll just do this rapid fire since we've got a lot of questions here. So question 4, can you share your experiences with accelerators and implementation? Accelerators for us were, I'd just say it again, a senior level commitment. The fact that we had a strong view on what the model can and should look like Diane just described, and clearly our data policy in itself as an accelerator. Decelerators, well, there's time to market in adoption. That took a bit of time, yet we knew it was going to take a bit of time because of the work that it would take to communicate, raise awareness, do training, get people on board. So time, I would say, is a bit of a decelerator. Sometimes we would have to work and remind folks around what data governance is and why it's important. And then lastly, I would say a final decelerator is not to get data policy confused as a concept, but something that you can actually do. So I think once we accomplished all those points in terms of being crisp and clear around what it is and why it's important, we were able to move forward.
I like the next one. When you say it's a journey, can we say that it's a perpetual marathon and not a sprint? Can we also say it's a paradigm shift for some organizations? It is definitely, I'll just say it's a journey with a capital J. It is, you know, I would say it's a persistent journey. One of the other lessons, or I would say something that I continue to learn about our group and our successes, and that linkage there is just persistence. Every day, every week, every month. You know, and now we're into every year. It is about sticking to your objectives and sticking to execution, and certainly just being persistent about what you think and know the right things are to do. I think what our senior management team is looking for, they're looking for confidence, they're looking for commitment, and they're looking for, you know, our execution to support not only the company as a best in marketplace, you know, organization, but it's the brand, and it's what is expected and what is needed from this company currently, and also to support, again, that future acquisition. So yes, it is yes, it is perpetual.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay.
So, Tom.
Yep. I'll take number 6. So once you landed on your data governance policies, how did you decide on what was that first battle you're going to go win? What was it in experience? So I would say for us, it was treating our data policy as a framework as an interim and conditional step until it became a full policy. And the reason why I say it that way is that the data policy, when it was first presented, particularly to our risk management organization, they were curious how we would enforce it, how we would ensure there's conformity. It wasn't like, a cyber security policy or an enterprise-wide E-type policy on protocols that you have to follow in terms of protecting information or avoiding, let's say, sites that are restricted, and the consequences could be something like termination. Landing on our data policy was more of a framework, and the way that we said that we would approach this is it was conditionally approved in view of creating awareness for what it is, why it's important again, getting the word out, having awareness sessions on it, training, and then really beginning to educate our team members across the entire company about the standards, about the guiding principles. And I'd say that took roughly a year with many different checkpoints and updates to the group before this past July 1st, it became a formalized policy within a group. And by the way, that enforcement, we track and measure conformity to the policy, like we talked about earlier. But the way that we talked about enforcement was that we said that we would work with legal in compliance if there are any breaches that had to be addressed. So there was still some level of discretion and vetting that we would do so, and that got folks, I think, comfortable at a senior level that it was okay to move towards a policy. Diane, you want to take the next question, number 7?
Sure. How many resources, full-time, part-time, do you have allocated to data governance activities, and how hard was it to get them allocated? So this question, we have about, including Tom, I'll include you, we have 11 full-time resources. And then in addition, we have anywhere from, let's just say 5 to about 17, 18 resources that are external consulting help that we have. That help us with the number of engagements. So that certainly month to month goes up and down depending on what we have going on. Was it hard to get them allocated? I think that it is challenging. We did have certainly a change in leadership over the course of this period, with certainly varying degrees of participation. I would say that in the beginning, it is difficult because you are trying to create a program with, certainly limited resources, limited support, but that has grown incrementally over the last 2 years. And I would say going forward, our objective is not to have it be so difficult, because I think we've proved how important our program is to not only the current state, but the go forward state. So hoping that, and certainly with the support of our COO and COO, that request of resources isn't so challenging.
Yeah, I would just add to that, we are adding headcount to support our data governance toolkit. So that's another 6. So that raises up to full-time equivalent to, let's say, roughly 18 or so. And we are going to add to our data analytics and records retention organization. So that probably was going to bring us somewhere in the neighborhood of 30. And then if you consider the contractors that we bring on board that support us, depending upon where we're at with the level of work effort that we have, it can be up to 50 people. Overall, that's what we expect that we'll be at, likely at an ongoing run rate for a period of time. But I would say probably we'll be in the neighborhood of 30 to, if we, as we continue to evolve and confirm and expand our remit, it'll be probably somewhere between 30 and 40 full-time people for the size of the company that we are. Just on the best class toolkit, not going to say that on this call, just because contractually we should not do so.
Next question, are you using commercially available products? We are in some cases. Yep, we are. I think we're probably limited to what products we can discuss, so apologies for that. Number 9 was the goal better data or to make data available for analytics? Both. We think about this program as change and run. So data changes. We need to certainly change the company. We need to run and operate the company, and data supports both. So when you think about running the company and operating the company, that means reporting, that means analytics, that means decisions and impacts. And then when you're changing the company, that certainly means new requirements, change requirements, whereby you need to understand what you have, so you don't continually create the same thing over and over again. So for us, it's change and run.
Yeah, in terms of the next two, how did we write our data policy? That was really brought forth, I think, through views around experts. Some of us have done this work before, sharing our best practices capabilities. We sought external views in terms of how experts saw data policies being written and being effective. So it's a bit of a combination of internal expertise, external expertise, and apply to our business lines. 11 around data policy in reality is more about a hierarchy and or network of data related policies, right? Some policies are on higher level than others. Yes, I mean, I think that, data policy and policies in general should be more guiding in terms of how they exist. So, ours, I think, is roughly 11 or 12 pages in length. It's not meant to be a detailed procedure. That's not what it's meant to be, but it's meant to be around how data should be treated in terms of commercial asset, in terms of completeness, timeliness, and accuracy, in view of, like we talked about before, not having duplicates, around being able to track and trace metadata changes, value content level changes, single identifiers, how it can be used as a shared service capability mechanism, the definitions around common understanding, that type of thing. The standards themselves can then go into, we can reference the standards, we did do that, and then those standards can be more detailed descriptions of how all that comes together. So yes, a higher level, and then view the standards being, each document is of the standard. It's not just one line to describe don't have duplicates. Like, how do you make sure you don't have duplicates? How do you support a program or an effort to do that? How do you organize metadata? That type of thing. So that's really, I think, how we took the approach around the data policy review.
We did, and just to add to that, the policies at LSEG are governed by boards of directors. They are not taken lightly. They go through an extremely robust governance structure and review process. In addition, something we did earlier this year was we actually conducted a survey and regarding our data policy and awareness of that data policy and understanding before the policy went into effect. So we actually used that data to develop a thematic analysis and determine where our focus areas and any sort of course corrections we needed to make. So that was incredibly enlightening for us and has really fed into, it's just one more driver that has sort of fed into our overall program and really provided that awareness to us about where we should focus.
Right, agreed. Question 12. Have you found that the work you have done to date has been a benefit in supporting LSEG business continuity and resiliency in these current times? That's from Stuart Bond at IDC. Thank you for that question. Yes, I do think that the the work that we've done in data governance with the data policy, with establishing data management capabilities, has absolutely benefited from the current resilient and environment. If I think about the data management program, in terms of a shared service, a more enriched model that benefits from the points that we just described in the data policy, absolutely, particularly with index input data, a dramatical improvement in terms of our capabilities with driving our intellectual property for enriched data and outcomes has definitely we've seen an uptick in that, and we know it's real because the market and the clients have said so in terms of quality and completeness improvements. So I would say for sure. Also, particularly related to our chief data office function, our data governance functions, and so on. It's also helped us with our Refinitiv acquisition around making sure that we've got good views and informed views on roles, responsibilities, particularly around what we do for enterprise data governance versus, let's say, product data strategy and commercial data strategy. That our efforts have really helped to fine tune that, so that there's a good understanding as our companies come together about, think of it as an enriched RACI matrix has been really good for us too.
Hey, Tom, Diane, just want to give you the kind of a 4-minute warning.
Yeah.
There are many more questions that we will get answered to. Can you maybe take a look at the kind of remaining questions and see if there's one or two that kind of jump out at you to say, yeah, this one we really want to answer. I'll let you just take a couple of seconds while you just look over that.
Yeah.
Just to remind everyone that we have a break coming up, the bio break, coffee break, and then our next session begins at 3:30. So
maybe I'll just take, there's a couple questions about how you measure success and KPIs. When we were rolling out the data policy, we certainly wanted to track the number of people that took the training, the number of people identified gaps, and we actually had some high rates there. We also track some basic points like how many people attend our steercos and our forum calls. Where are we in terms of our maturity level, like the data management maturity assessments that we've done, those became important. I think in terms of where we would start along the journey, I think the culture and the buy-in that there was a need. Diane and I were talking the other day that we were just thankful that folks a few years ago had the foresight to see the need here, and that it started from the top down. That was critical for us to be where we're at now, 2.5, 3 years later. I don't think we would have progressed as far had that not been there. Diane, do you want to answer anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last one is where would you start your data management? Where would you start essentially? And I don't want to crash the system, so I started the video. So if I didn't want to crash on this last, but where we would start is essentially requirements and vision. What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that is important for the company through your data program? Be very, very clear about that vision. Be very, very clear about those requirements, and begin to articulate, what you expect to achieve. That's really where we started.
Okay, great, Robert. I think we're at time. So thank you very much on behalf of Diane and myself, and to
thank you.
The Symposium. Thank you for having us. It was great speaking to you all.
It's been a real pleasure. I mean, you can tell by the amount of questions I was putting into the chat box that this was really an informative and worthwhile session. Certainly look forward to hearing progress from you guys. Congratulations. And so for our attendees, this is a bio break. We will see you all back on track B. If you're interested in the next session, 3:30. And Tom and Diane, thank you very much indeed. If you just want to stay with us a minute, we will just cut to commercial.
Okay, thank you.